Okay.
Whoops, it's not.
I need my picture.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's an old portrait of me. Whatever. In my the studio I had before the studio I have now. But anyway, so that's 2019. Could we do the next picture? I just wanted to start with talking about where I work. This is the little studio that I work in at home in Park Slope. And it's actually the other end of this room that I'm sitting in here. So it's a multi-use room. Next picture. This is my studio at Trestle Art Space. Trestle started out as a Brooklyn Art Gym in Gowanus a long time ago, 10 years ago or whatever. More than that. I've been with them all that time through their moves. And what I've found through the experience of the pandemic is that the environment that I work in has been really significant for me. So next picture. One of the things that's really nice about Trestle is we have individual semi-privates, but we also have access to this wonderful space with natural light and big walls. This shows an exhibit in the space, but if if it wasn't full, I could go in there and put one of my bigger paintings on the wall. Okay, so that's where I work. And that picture is the last painting that I did a year ago in my old studio in Trestle before the pandemic. So, Trestle shut down. I had to take 2 buses to get there from my house, so I stopped traveling. And I just didn't do any painting for 3 months. I didn't know how to do that kind of painting at home. Is what it came down to. So it felt kind of worn out after this long break. I just didn't feel like I wanted to paint like that anymore. But I still felt this old compulsion to paint. The new question was, well, how am I going to paint now? Not even so much what, because the what of what I paint is usually the how that I paint it. So next picture. So what happened was, I'm pretty committed to abstract art, and but I found this, I was inspired to have this new kind of approach. I had new conditions, a new space, smaller canvases to work on in that space, and a smaller scale, of course. And I also kind of touched base again with an artist who was really influential for me, Thomas Noskowski, who's died in the last few years. From him, I got the value of inconsistency as a painter. And that he used sources that he kept kind of in mystery for other people, but he basically thought anything that fascinated him was a good subject for a painting, to see how he could make it work. And I just found that liberating. And I thought, nobody's going to see this, I can do whatever I want, and I can be inconsistent. And somehow that was very freeing. And so my focus became, how can I make a painting out of this? Could you do the next picture? So anyway, in thinking about my new abstract point of view, I thought about patterns and maps and decoration and the texture and the wovenness of fabrics. I wanted to simplify my palette. I wanted to have paintings that were more focused. So my palette got more simplified. I started to use lines and shapes in a way that I hadn't before. And most importantly, I started using small brushes to paint. And I felt that any application was open to me. So the question was how to do it. If it didn't work, I was perfectly happy to try something else. So this painting is the first one that I worked on as soon as I got back to my old studio. It's not very big. It's 16 by 20, but I completely revisioned it, resaw it. I just thought, I'll just keep what fascinates me about this painting and mute everything else. So that's what I did. So could you do the next one?
Oh, yeah, oops, I got off.
Okay, yeah, this one's called Reset, right?
Whoops. It's not going. There we go.
Oh, okay, there. Now this is the most recent painting that I've worked on in my new studio. I started it a while. It takes me a long time to finish paintings. Sometimes it's years. But I brought my experiments to the new space, and I didn't particularly want to continue with the same experiment, but I didn't want to lose what I practiced, how things had changed. So I felt more of a commitment to push what it was I really liked. And this is a much bigger painting. This is 4 feet by 5 feet.
Oh, wow.
I do paintings that are actually a little bigger than this, but I try not to paint anything that's kind of out of my reach. I don't want to paint higher than I can reach or broader than I can reach, partly because I often use my hands or I use a knife, or, you know, when I do use a brush, I get right in there. I'm very close. So I wanted to hang on to my sense of that what the pandemic is becoming for me is a whole lot of new experiences and new sources, you know, and a welcoming of limitations and of the change of conditions. This sounds really positive. I don't feel this way all the time. Mm-hmm. But what I stay in touch with my with this painting now is a real value of uncertainty. There's so many things we've been uncertain of ahead of us now with this new situation, that I decided that it was good. It was liberating to just go ahead, not knowing the outcome, not knowing how I was going to get there. So I guess I'll end on that note.
All right. Well, thank you. That's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you said? Something that really struck me. The artist who influenced you so much, who encouraged you to be inconsistent.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really interesting. I'd like to hear that phrase again.
Well, Thomas Niskowski was he taught for a long time. He produced, I mean, really prolific painter. Decided early on to paint small paintings, 16 by 20, and then eventually 22 by 28. And he really didn't vary very much from that format. He was extremely self-disciplined. I am not, but he was. So his practice was he would observe things on his way to the studio. When he got to the studio, he would start with painting an image of something that had struck him. And, you know, it could be anything. It could be like the light of a reflection on a glass bottle. He didn't want to paint the bottle. He wanted to paint the reflection. And he didn't want to make a painting about the light on a bottle in a context. He was an abstractionist because he was really interested in the sight of the thing, what it looked like to him out of context. And I think that's really an interesting way to look at abstraction. When I looked at things like patterns, one of the things that influenced me in that painting with the black form and the green side is that I realized that was a pattern I'd seen for a long time as a child. There was a lot of decorative painting in my childhood. Yeah, that one. And so I thought, why can't, you know, I would like to be able to return to some of that. I just don't know how to make a painting out of it. I don't want to duplicate the design or the pattern or anything like that. I just want to use that thing, that shape. And so the way to do that is to allow yourself to be inconsistent. The way that shape is painted is completely different than the way the background is painted. Mm-hmm. And the way I used my hands and the brush was, the whole painting was painted inconsistently with what I'd done before. So I guess, you know, I'm trying to just trying to use more possibilities than what I had seen before. So.
That's absolutely fascinating. I think it adds it obviously adds to your pleasure.
Yeah.
you also said something, with pleasure comes pain.
Yeah.
Something about spending a year or years to finish a painting. How the
Yeah.
heck do you know when you're done? And if you spent that much time on a painting, do you really feel you're done, or is it become sort of
Yeah.
a project that can always be added to, or, you know?
Well, sometimes I may think that something's done, and then I mean, I don't have any space in my apartment to have a lot of stuff up, especially big things, and so they wind up being stuck in the basement or taken off the stretcher and rolled up. But I do photograph things, so I see the images, and every once in a while I look at an old painting and see, oh, that's what I could have done. Now, I know it might be wiser to start over, you know, from scratch with that same kind of situation in front of me. But a lot of times I just go back in there to that old painting and scrape and paint over. And, you know, not the painting is never like completely different than where it started. But now I feel like now I know what I was trying to paint.
Mhm.
And for me, that's difficult because it's abstract. And so one of the things I liked about this new way of painting is I could tell, right, pretty quickly, is that painted the way I want to paint it? Yes or no? If it isn't, what else can I do? And so I really liked that, the sense of boundaries that came out of that.
That's wonderful.
Just briefly to say about
Mhm.
finishing paintings,
Yeah,
every artist I know seems to not know when the painting is finished. So it's at least it's finished when I'm tired of it,
yeah.
or it's finished when I want to hang it on my own wall. So
There you go. Do you do you ever destroy a painting? They get, or paint it white, black it out or white it out because you just like,
yeah, I've done that. I get too attached to the parts of the painting that I like, that work. To really like destroy the thing. I have actually cut them up. I've cut them up, the canvas up, and you try to use them in collage and things like that. I've thrown, things away. I tend to, I get too attached to the work that I've done.
yeah.
But at the same time, I have the experience of just sort of cringing, like, how could I have painted that? I wish that
You see,
didn't
I
exist.
love to learn about the negative along with the positive.
Yeah,
You can see
yeah,
by your smile that even the
yeah.
cringe is somehow salted with pleasure. So there you go.
One of the best stories I ever heard about what an artist did with old paintings he didn't want anymore is Baldessari, who had this enormous studio in San Diego and thousands of works from his early career. And so he arranged to have them cremated. Like, he hired a crematorium, he took all the paintings in there, they were all burned up, and he had them cremated and took the ashes and made them into a book. And I thought, that's wonderful. I wish I could do that.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Heidi, that was really, really wonderful. Now, for those who wish to stay on, I'm going to